This video is brought to you in collaboration with wowhead.com. Hello everyone! Last stream I got this question from Thoradin. Noble, with the new expansion going on in the Elven lands, do you think we might see a return of Kifix? I mean, Xal'atath sucked up Zakash in Tyr's tomb in Tirisfal. Can he somehow be a part of Xal'atath and want to resurrect his brother? And I thought that this was a pretty darn good question. Let's make a video about it. But I can understand that what I just said for some of you sound like abracadabra. What do you mean? What are you talking about? Well, in the past, Xal'atath, while still trapped in the blade, she's been quite active and has been pulling strings behind the scenes. One of those involved an ancient evil released due to the darkness at Ulduar. Here, we found the imprisoned old god Yogg-Saron doing his very best to break free, manipulate his jailers, and take over the facility. Eventually, managing to get his corrupting tentacles into Keeper Loken, and use him to nullify the other keepers. Meanwhile, Keeper Tyr, Arcadus, and Ironaya, they figured out what was going on. And while they didn't have the forces or the opportunity to clean up the prison, they could take the discs of Norgannon, which have been recording Azeroth's true history since the coming of the Titans, and when their creators would eventually return, they would have proof of Loken's betrayal. Quickly leaving Northrend behind them, their daring journey began, and Loken lost his mind, fearing above all that he be found out, that he be punished. So he released the ancient forces that had been locked away when the Titans brought order to Azeroth, the Kafraks called Kifix and Zakash. They were sent off to Tyr and his party, and caught up to them in the area that we now call Tirisfal, because that is where Tyr fell, sacrificing it all so that his friends could journey on, so that the truth could be revealed. Zakash fell where Tyr fell, while Kifix, they managed to travel a little bit further, before also succumbing to their wounds. But that would far be the end of their stories, and all of it could very much be connected to the war within.
The world's soul, so long denied me, shall be mine.
Where Kifix had fallen, the Loa reeled from its presence, burying it beneath the earth so that no other creature would disturb it. It was the only place forbidden by the tribe's witch doctors and priests. The Loa warned the tribe's mystics of severe consequences should they disturb the Black Stones. For many years, none of the trolls dared disobey, but curiosity eventually won out. Curiosity and Xal'atath's influence. While in the dagger, she led the troll Xundo and his followers to this forbidden place, and convinced them that performing blood rituals would be a really good idea. Great power awaited them after all, enough to wipe out their rivals. With this in mind, corrupted by the blade, the witch doctor did not hesitate. He dismembered some of his companions with the dagger, and then he used their blood and organs as reagents to awaken Kifix once more. In the final act, Xundo buried his gore-stained dagger into Kifix's hide, and the giant rumbled to life. Xundo and his followers were never seen again. Trolls would later visit the site, and find only scattered bones picked clean of flesh. And our Kifix knew how to harness Xal'atath's true potential. Knew it would delight the imprisoned old gods to see this pitiful civilization rent to ashes. The Kafraks reached out with his mind and controlled the buck race of the Akir to wipe out the trolls. But the trolls were powerful, and the trolls were many. Under leadership of the Zandalari, and at great costs, they managed to fight back, destroy Kifix, defeat its armies, but Xal'atath would haunt the dreams of the war survivors until the end of their days. Many tribes would recount legends about the Black Blade that had nearly driven them to extinction. And where did Kifix fall? Oh, nowhere special, I suppose, except atop the sites where they'd kill him. The trolls established a brand new settlement. It would one day grow into a sprawling temple city, a little place you know as Zul'aman. What could go wrong building up your settlements upon the corpse of a Kafraks? And that's only one of the first lineup of dominoes of events that cascade all the way into the war within. Fun facts, the Amani trolls living at Zul'aman they would end up in a war with the newly located High Elves of Quel'Thalas. The High Elves, in turn, teamed up with the recently formed Arathi Empire. Humans evolved from Vraiku, hit with a curse of flesh, a curse provided by the old god Yogg-Saron, which made them more vulnerable to the old god's influence, but also gave them flesh. The Vraiku of Northrend had been ordered to murder their malformed offspring, but the parents could not, and instead send their children to the lands legend said Tyr and the others had gone to. That's how the humans eventually ended up in these lands, and their union with the elves, it led not only to their victory in the so-called Troll Wars. And honestly, when you start to think about it, the ripple effect of this is kinda nutty. You got the formation of the Arathi Empire, those Arathi that were partying with in Hollowfall, but you also got the formation of the Alliance of Lordaeron, Illyria and Trellium meeting up, Lothar calling upon his ancient bloodline, introduction of magic to the humans. This moment in history is massive. But Thoradin of Arathor, leader and founder of the first human kingdom, he'd only just begun. He becomes super interested in the origin of humans, and legends of those days eventually led him to an ancient tomb.
Long ago, my yearning for knowledge led me here, to a tomb that lies beneath the lake. Within its cold stone walls, I found something long buried, a terrible darkness. An ancient evil. My men begged me to walk away. I refused. My pride would be my downfall, and theirs. The evil stirred, unleashing death upon us. With my last breath, I drove my blade, Stromka, into the beast's skull. For many ages, the sword has kept the beast from rising again. But now, it stirs once more.
Warriors during the Legion expansion would travel into the tomb first, taking on the beast and claiming Stromkar as their artifact in the war against the Burning Legion. Shadow Priests came in next, stopping the Twilight Hammer and overpowering Twilight Deacon Farding.
Yes, we are eager to feast on the fallen Titan's minions. But first, Zakaj. The cultists may try to stir him again, or he could awaken on his own. We must consume his essence to ensure he is gone forever. You know this must be done.
A nice little snack for our Xal'atath, who'd go on playing a vital role in the defeat of the Legion, getting herself out of that blade in battle for Azeroth, and now, of course, prominently featuring in the War Within. So to your question, when we go back to the old lands, as they said with the announcement for the World Soul Saga.
You will be returning, ready, to the old world. To the fabled lands of Quel'Thalas. There, the forces of the Void have invaded Azeroth, intent on snuffing out the light of the Sunwell and plunging the world into darkness and fear. You will not only help reunify the scattered elven tribes of Azeroth, but you will make your stand with the forces of the light and banish the shadow forever.
I'd imagine that this history with the Kafraks, Kifix underneath Zul'aman, that it will come back into play in some way, some form. If not, then Blizzard is, in my mind, letting an easy connection fall away, and it's not like they've forgotten about Xal'atath's influence on the past. Quite the opposite. They've been very clear and wanted to let us know what Xal'atath has done. If we go back to the War Within pre-events, then we can literally see previous wielders of the Blade of the Black Empire. The image of Zondo is there, but also Modgut, great-great-great-great-great-great-grandma of Dagran Faurusan, who also got abandoned by the Blade. Her final words being, "You promised." But before she fell, Modgut released such darkness upon Grimbatol while wielding Xal'atath as she was fighting in the War of Three Hammers, that those stuck inside would eventually become corrupted and turned into the Skardin. Originally, the Skardin didn't show up in the corrupted Grimbatol. We didn't see them in-game, but they made sure to incorporate them and give them a model during the War Within, Point being that those events from the past, they most definitely play a part in Xal'atath's plans for the future. She nearly made a whole army of Scardin by infecting the machines of the Ringing Deeps. Now, obviously, the connection is quickly made to someone like the Jailer, who also retroactively has been given a whole lot of credit for manipulating events in the past. But what I like with Xal'atath, and what I find a major difference so far, is that it's not the entire thing. It's not the entire history being thrown upon her shoulders. Instead, it's more critical, smaller moments that cascade into her favor, as well as it's built up over a much longer period of time. From the moment that she was introduced as an artifact back in Legion, which is a couple of expansions ago now, it's been built up, and she's been whispering, and she's been telling her story, and been getting pieces of the puzzle that fit together. The more that we learn about her, the more mystery is also built up. I do really hope that we're gonna have those answers soon. We still have loads that we do not know about Xal'atath, but going back to those wielders, we have the trolls with Zul'aman and the Kafraks, right? We have Modgut with the Scardin, but there was one more mentioned in the artifact scrolls, one more image of a wielder that showed up. There was Natalie Seline. And I'm not sure how she would fit in with the overarching plans. We know that Seline is at the foundation of the Cult of Forgotten Shadows, which is severely underrepresented part of the lore within the game. Decades after Modgut lost Xal'atath, the blade was taken by a human bishop named Natalie Seline. She had lived through the First War, when the Orcish horde invaded Azeroth and conquered Stormwind. After the war, Seline realized that to defeat the green-skinned orcs, humanity would need to study the strange powers they wielded. She closely examined their magics, and she visited battle sites where their dark arts had befouled the lands. From her investigations, she learned of an otherworldly blade that the orcs had used in their bloody rituals, a blade that held sway over the shadows themselves. Troubled that such a profane weapon could exist, Seline swore to hunt it down and destroy it in the name of the light. But the moment she touched the blade, she got into contact with Xal'atath, who showed her that there was not just light, there was also a void. In the ebb and flow between these two forces, one can find power and knowledge beyond anything the Church of the Holy Light has ever revealed to us. One can cross the divide between light and void. One can pull strands from each side and weave a tapestry of day and night. Of course, there are consequences. There always are when walking in the shadows.
Embrace the shadow.
In essence, she brought us Shadow Priests. So from that, you could argue that Seline's research, it provided more cultists and potential victims falling to the whispers of the void. Yet, it also created a whole bunch of enemies wielding their powers against them. There's also this little thing that I do hope they still remember. There is Alonzus Fall, the one who put us on the quest to pick up Xal'atath to begin with. In life, he too was a member of the Church of the Holy Light. In fact, he was Archbishop at the time. He saw the death of the clerics at Northshire at the hands of the orcs, and he proposed the idea of adding paladins amongst the ranks of the Alliance. It's thanks to him that we see legends like Uther the Lightbringer or Trellian turn the tide of battle against the Horde's Death Knights. At some point, however, some way, somehow, he would fall and be brought back into undeath, introducing himself with,
I am Alonzus Fowl. At times, I have been a leader of a church, a mindless minion of the Scourge, and a commander in a secret war. But I have always been a priest first.
Is there a scenario we could imagine in which Seline, member of the church, would confide in Alonzus about Xal'atath? There's a fairly big gap in Fall's history. What secret war has he been a part of? Was it random chance that the Bishops of Secrets put us on a trail of finding the artifacts, or was this too part of the plan? Now, we've already done a full video on the Dark Heart and its role throughout history, but safe to say, long story short, Xal'atath has had her whispers influence history on Azeroth for a very long time, and I don't think it's crazy to think that the dealings with the Kafraks, the events at Zul'aman, the Trolls, Raffi, and the Elves, that they could all be part in the future, but only time is going to tell. And as we all know, any expansion that features the trolls is going to be one hell of an expansion. So I can't wait to find out. And as I was editing this video, more ideas popped to mind, more thoughts randomly. So we learned from Seline that the orcs also wielded Xal'atath as she was in the blade. When exactly did that happen? When did they find Xal'atath? Did she leave the planet? We have a Locust Walker that knows about Xal'atath. That's like, oh, she calls herself the Harbinger now. That makes sense. She is connected to being this entity that used to serve Dimensius, the All-Devouring. So how come she ended up on Azeroth, ended up trapped in the blade? We know that there was a bargain between herself and N'Zoth, a bargain which set her free from the blade. But what exactly did it provide N'Zoth? And how did they get in touch with each other? How did those parts play out in which she showed up in front of N'Zoth and was like, okay, you can set me free now? What did she manipulate there? In Hollowfall, as she is draining the crystal, Beladar, she has a whole speech about how she survived empires of the past. And yet, when we look at where she's standing at that moment, the design is very similar to the Darkheart itself and the location as well, almost as if that was predetermined, that when the Arathi were there, something pushed them in order to set up their holy place so that in the future, Xal'atath had like this location to drain it again. There are a lot of intricate little bits and pieces that are being built up as to, okay, this is what Xal'atath has done in the past. And again, the comparison, like, I remember once upon a time, someone asked me, like, could the jailer have done better? Could the jailer have been done in such a way that was accepted in the story? And back then, I was very strongly of the opinion, like, nah, adding something after the fact to the story that you've established is not going to work out. But over time, I've changed my mind on that one as, you know, you can retroactively fit your story to fit a new narrative and make it better. Just look at the Illidan storyline, for example. And in the case of Xal'atath, as I mentioned in this video as well, so far she has been given credit for everything, which is already a big advantage. And again, she's been given bits and pieces that work into her favor. Now, there is most definitely the potential of giving her too much power. And in my mind, that line is crossed when she can predict the future, right? Like when she can predict millennia in advance and that all these steps are going to happen. But so far, you can write off her predictions, her motivations, her manipulations as something that fits a narrative of, okay, she's just making use of opportunities. She is going with what's happening. And of course, she is whispering. She's manipulating very much like the ring in Lord of the Rings. But that's what something that Xal'atath has always been since the beginning with the dagger, where the priest picked it up in Legion. She started whispering about the glory of the Black Empire and how the Titans are nothing and the dragons have fallen and you should totally make fun of Keeper Odin because he'll smite you and that's going to be hilarious. And I kind of like that when it comes to her character. So once again, thank you very much for your question. I also realized that I never answered the whole bringing back her brother and becoming one being. Maybe. Like the intricate details as to what she's going to do with the Kafrax, that's something to be decided in the future. But again, if they don't bring in Zul'aman and the Kafrax in the storyline in some way, shape or form, as we're going to go back to the Quel'Thalas, to the Elvenlands, I would be highly surprised. Ramble at the end of the video over. But for now, thank you very much for watching, everyone. And thank you very much for your question. Say that you want to read up on all the things we talked about today. Then do make sure to check out the wild article in the description down below. Subscribe if you like my videos. And until next time, see ya!